The boys were feeling a little bit at the end there.
Yeah, it's something that we did in camp in Detroit. It's just kind of honestly, I think a lot of times some of the best bonding is when you go through struggle together, and struggles different kind of ways, and sometimes kind of through working together and grinding through it together. I thought guys did a great job, so that was awesome. That's the kind of work ethic we're going to have, and I thought again, guys did a good job kind of pushing each other and making sure we keep pushing that envelope.
Well, what else? I felt like you were reporting on breakouts too. What else was the emphasis today? Yeah,
breakouts and entries, and they kind of go together. So those were the two kind of points of emphasis. A little bit of puck battle in the middle of it. I thought we actually ended up kind of scrapping a couple drills because we wanted to make sure that we got enough reps in on those breakouts. Ultimately, track was yesterday. Winning habits was yesterday. Track is, to me, like the number one thing. If you do a great job doing that, you're usually in good position defensively. But breakouts kind of are the engine of your team. Where if you can break the puck out smooth, then you can have the puck a lot. And I think ultimately, we all want to have the puck as much as we can and be on the attack as much as we can. To do that, you have to break out. And the league is such a hard forecheck league now. Everybody forechecks so hard that you have to make sure your support's in a great spot and you're moving that puck clean out of your zone. If you can get clean exits, you got a chance to have a rush team.
You have so many promising young defensemen. You have someone like Nick Grizzly who comes in. He's wanting to earn a spot, also knowing what you have in place. Someone like for him, what does he need to show you, or what are you hoping to maybe see out of him for him to?
Yeah, no, I think I had a quick meeting with him when he got in. He's obviously a good player. He's a good player in the league. Honestly surprised that he's still available in a sense that, I thought he had a good year last year with Pittsburgh. He kind of can do a lot of different jobs. Last year he was on the power play. Hadn't spent a ton of time, on a first unit before that. Ultimately, he's got to be him. He's got to be a real good, steady kind of figure out there for us. And then it probably depends on how some of the younger guys play. If the younger guys play real good, then it'll make it hard. If the younger guys falter and open the door for him and he plays great hockey, then he's in a good position. So we'll try to get him into as many exhibition games as we can, given the numbers we want to give the other guys as well, and get a look at him and see.
With so many open spots, are you using the preseason to evaluate these guys who are on the bubble and making the team going back to Rockford? Are you planning on giving them a bigger look than some of the vets maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you have a balance. First of all, if the way the schedule goes, you have two sets of back-to-back, so there's a balance there. Certainly some of the younger guys will get more games than some of the vets. I want to make sure that they all get enough games with a new staff, a new systems, that they're ready to roll come game one. As I said, I think yesterday, we have more good players than spots, in my opinion, which is a great thing. But they'll all get ample opportunity in the exhibition games, and you gotta grab the spot, and it's not easy. It's not like it's a 10-game stretch. The other thing I'd say is it's not a marathon. I mean, we always make a big deal who's on the team coming out of camp. But that doesn't mean that's who's going to be on the team a month from now, 2 months from now, and a year from now. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, and the guys just got to keep, playing great hockey and showing that they're making improvements in the areas that they have to improve, and making sure that whatever they do great, they're accentuating.
Jason Dickinson made it sound like you guys clicked whenever you guys had your off-season conversation. He's a player who's really into details and shut down center, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Where do you see him fitting? And I guess if you could share any of the conversation about just what you guys talked about.
Well, the thing about Jason that I like, he's been through the league a bit now, and he probably always was a guy who looked at himself as a check first type player. I think probably what Michael Pekka was as a player, to be honest with you. I think they scored points in juniors, but they knew that they were, they always appreciated the defensive side of it and being a two-way player. And I think Jason knows what he is. He knows what he's good at, knows where he can make a real impact in this league and on our team. Ultimately, for our team, I'd like to have a line that can go out and play against the other team's top lines on a consistent basis, and that frees up some of our younger players to be able to go out and not have to necessarily play against that type of line every night. I think if you look throughout the league, the teams that have won, they all have a third line. You can call it whatever you want in the lineup, but they all have a third-type line that goes out and plays tough minutes against other teams with great players. Does a good job shutting them down, and shutting them down doesn't mean you just defend. Shutting them down is if you can make them defend. Those types of players generally get frustrated when they got to spend a lot of time defending. So that's what we'd like to have. Certainly, Jason's going to get. I foresee him being in that role. Huge believer in finding roles for each player. It's not always possible, but a big believer in that. If you can find roles and define those roles and have them excel in those roles, usually guys really like that.
With Donato, it's pretty rare to see a guy kind of explode offensively in the middle of his career the way he did last year. For you, first as kind of an opposing coach, watching him, how have you seen him evolve? And then secondly, this year, what do you think the key to repeating that will be for him?
Yeah, and it's always, listen, I would say that production can ebb and flow a little bit. No, that's a huge number he put up last year for sure. That doesn't mean he could have a great year this year and score 20. You know what I mean? And play great hockey. It's just the way sometimes it goes. Sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're really going. I think it first starts with opportunity. Obviously, I think he earned and had the opportunity to have lots of ice time last year, so he's got to continue to earn that. I thought as an opposing coach, I know I didn't necessarily see him enough to say, oh man, this got way better, that got way better. When I watch him on the ice the last few days, he looks like a guy that can score. Like, it doesn't surprise me that he's scored. He's probably, the thing about scoring is you got to be able to get yourself in those spots. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. How much the coach plays you, who your line mates are. I think he improved his speed, so being able to separate yourself to get yourself in those spots matters, and probably all those things came together, and he had a real good year, and I hope he has 4 more of them, just like that. That'd be awesome for us.
Speaking of Dickinson's third line, you've had Landon Slaggert out there with him a little bit. As a younger guy, how do you see him maybe complementing what a Dickinson and a McKayev does, and how do you see his specific skill set maybe being a Swiss Army knife in the systems you're putting in?
He is, I think when Landon's at his best, and I had a chance to watch him play at the National Team Development Program, not really at Notre Dame, but I've had one of my best friends coached him at the program. So I've talked about Landon for a long time. I actually know his family really, really well. I know his father, Gray's father's been a Notre Dame assistant forever, actually recruited me. That's how old he is. So Landon, for me, when he's at his best, he's a dog on a bone. He's got great tenacity. He's on the puck. Showed a clip yesterday of his physicality, which I think he can continue to bring more of. So again, if you're on a line like that and he's constantly out there hunting pucks, hunting on the track, good players don't like to have no space, and he can ensure that they don't have space because of his speed and his tenacity kind of combination. So I think he's a guy who could really find a role in that. Now he's got to go grab it. He's going to be given some opportunity to do it in the preseason, and now he's got to grab it.
You mentioned that, I think you said conditioning at the end is something you did in Detroit as well. Is there anything else that you're bringing from Detroit that you want to see work here as well?
Tyler Bertuzzi saw himself in a couple drills that we showed. So there's some old drills that we brought back. He said he must have been faster back then. Listen, I'm a compilation of all the experiences I've had, and so there's some things from Detroit, some things from Tampa, some things from Grand Rapids, some things with the Indiana Ice, and some things with Western Michigan. I mean, it's kind of all of it together. That specific skate test, I guess, was something that we did in Detroit, and we did to make sure that we raised our level of preparation coming into camp. So the guys were aware that was going to be part of camp, and I think these guys train so hard in the summer. I don't know that they need an extra mirror, but it's a little bit of mirror to say, listen, we're ready to roll right away.
Hey, Flash, speaking of follow up on Bert a little bit, you know that he's a notorious slow starter.
Yeah.
And likely of all teams, you can't afford slow starts.
Yeah.
Have you had that conversation with him?
Him and I have talked, I guess between the starts and then some real kind of ebbs and flows, like where he gets real hot and then he goes for, in his words, honestly to me, it was just 2 long stretches where he doesn't, and so it's something that we're just going to monitor as we go through the season, right away. One of the assistants will have Bert and making sure that we're watching for what are those reasons? Are we missing? Is he not getting to the net as much, which he normally does? You know, are we not shooting the puck enough because he's at the net and we're not getting enough shots in there? You know, so it's something we've had conversations about. I think, you know, Bert's been around long enough now. He's a pretty good self-reflector and can kind of look and say, you know, these are things I've done well, and these are the areas, you know, as he said to me, like, I want your guys' help with to make sure that we're, you know, putting himself in the best position to succeed.
We talked with Jared Nightingale at rookie camp, and I know especially with a lot of the younger players that might not make the team, but then will be in Rockford, but could get called up throughout the season. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys want to keep the lines of communication open?
Yeah, so I've known the Nightingale family a long time. They're from Sheboygan, Michigan. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It's about an hour, just over the bridge, hour and 10 minutes away. I was there a little bit younger than me, but I've known of their family for a long time. I coached with Adam Nightingale in Detroit, who's now the head coach at Michigan State, and then I actually coached Jared for a couple of games in Grand Rapids. I was pumped when we hired Jared. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great human. I think he's the type of guy that can get the most out of young players, period, not just young players, because I think he understands how to connect with them. He understands how to drive them, but still be in their corner. We will have constant communication. I think it's real beneficial for the staff in Chicago and the staff in Rockford to make sure we're constantly on the same page in a lot of different areas. One, systematically, is there anything they're doing that, you know, we might want to steal, and vice versa. I want him to watch our games and give me his perspective. I like to get different perspectives of people that aren't necessarily in our coaching room every day, because that, you know, there might be something fresh that we hadn't thought of. You know, I'm sure he'll pick my brain on stuff, so we'll have constant communication with him.